Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Another episode of I Am My Own Story. And today we have Lady Artemis, who is going to talk to us about growing up biracial. So, without further ado, Lady Artemis.
Thank you for having me. Solid. How are you?
I am good. I am good. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this. Now, just to give a little backstory, everyone. Lady Artemis was a guest on our show, Friendly Differences, on December the 2nd, I think that
I think
was. So we talked about being uh, born into a biracial or being a biracial child. So this is going to be an extension of that. So if you guys saw that interview or that show, there may be some things that are repeated, but just as a one-on-one, first of all, I want to ask, and I asked this on the show, but I'm going to start off with this again. Do you ever regret being born biracial, just in terms of the challenges that you've had to face?
not anymore. When I was growing up, I was just getting so much heat left, right, and center that I really wanted either one or the other, um, or at least to look more mixed, because I was hoping maybe that would get me a little more accepted um, in the Black community. Especially because my family on my mom's side, my maternal grandmother's side, they're evil, and if if you're too dark, you're a monster. If you're too light, you're a monster. And it, like, just getting it, it's bad enough getting it from like other kids and stuff like that, but then you get that heat from your own family, and you're just like, okay, but I'm just existing. But now, today, as an adult, I use how I look, as like for good. And if I go through a line and I don't get like any issues or whatever, but the woman behind me, the Black woman behind me, starts getting heat and pressure, I will call you out, because you're not going to pull that slick stuff on me. And I would rather you be racist in my face than fake and a snake behind my back.
Okay, so let's also let everyone know to let people know what your mother and father were in terms of what their race was.
Sure. So my mom is Black, and my dad is Caucasian, and clearly the force was strong with my dad. But my mom, um, my mom grew up during the civil rights era. So she saw firsthand what it looked like to have just hatred from the superior race come at you, and then on the opposite side of that, what it looked like to have a man who just happened to be white love you and be with you and have a family with you. So that's a lot, knowing what she went through and what she saw, some of the stuff she's told me. And including, it also happened on my dad's side. My dad's, I want to say it was a cousin. He was best friends with a gentleman who was Black, and they had gone to get gas. And during that time, the gas owner, whoever owned the station, saw that they were riding together and said, "You're not getting any gas here. Like, just go on." They left. He calls the police and says that they robbed him. And the police,
Wow.
yeah, they find him at the next gas station, pull him over, arrest him, take him to jail. This is where it takes a really dark turn. Uh, my dad's cousin calls his mom and is like, "Hey, I need your help. This is what happened." They're on their way up there to go, like the parents, his mom and dad, are on their way up there to bail them out. And someone who didn't know how to use a Jersey turnpike, like the roundabouts,
Hmm.
went away, slammed into them head on, killed his mom.
Wow. Wow.
It's horrific, because when you think about it, it's like, I know someone will easily say, okay, but he didn't kill the woman. He just, no, 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 no. His actions led to that. If
Hmm.
that gas station owner had never done that,
Hmm.
she would have stayed at home.
Right.
He is responsible. The guy who didn't know how to use the turnpike, that was clearly an accident. He had no idea what he was doing. And I feel horribly for him. But the guy who put that woman in that position to begin with is the gas station owner. He had no business doing what he did. And that's what I mean by like a snake. Like, was he crossed with them? Yeah, like, no, you're not getting anything here. But then what did he do? Sneakily called the police when they were gone. That is a snake thing to do. And he has blood on his hands. I genuinely hope he's burning for it.
So do you have any situations where Black people have done things that, like, damn, you're actually doing this? I mean, I'm one of you, but you're treating me like this.
Oh yeah.
But and I want to ask, is it because you present white? But so would it have been different if you were biracial and you were darker and you presented Black? Meaning, do you think that that would have made a difference?
So I feel like it would have made a difference. I know there's still colorism in the community. I understand that. And maybe I would have dealt with more of that. But there's a couple instances when I was a kid, I was in 4th grade, and we had just moved to a new neighborhood in Alexandria. And there were a couple of kids there. The one girl, we'll just call her Kay. Kay was also biracial, but her parents were reversed, white mom, black dad. And she was light skinned. You could tell she was mixed, but I'll never forget how, and she knew my mom was Black, but I'll never forget how she rallied a lot of the Black kids in the neighborhood, screaming that they wanted revenge for slavery and that I should be ashamed, and that basically like I was solely responsible. And I'll never forget, they backed me into the bushes and I finally had to bellow out, like, you guys know my mom is Black, like I'm half Black. Yeah, but you don't look it. Like,
wait, and how old were you?
4th grade, so that's like what,
10?
10?
Around 10?
Mm-hmm. About that age. And
these were other kids about the same age doing this to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was just like I was like, okay, does your mom know how you feel? And then she got all in a tizzy about me bringing her mom into it. And I'm like, your mom is solid white, dude. Like, I'm pretty sure she's from Kentucky. Like, she's straight Caucasian. I can borderline see through her. Like, but you're over here saying down with white people. We want revenge. Like, your mom is white though. Like, my dad is white. Your mom is white. But because I don't present, it was one of those things. And another time was when I was in high school. I mean, I've got instances left, right, and center, but when I was in high school, my dog is a crackhead. When I was in high school, I was hanging out with a few friends and my best friend who is Black, Jessica, Tweety is her nickname. But when I was hanging out with her, we went to do whatever dumb teenagers do. But I brought up how I was biracial, and I'm not kidding. You basically heard the record scratch and everybody just looked at me. And I'm like, I mean, I am. And like a couple of my friends who were with me along with Tweety were like, no, dude, she really is. And the one guy was like, okay, Snow White, well, you are the palest slave I have ever seen. And of course, like everybody's laughing about it, but like I chuckled about it then, but like now I just like, I don't know. It makes me wince, not in the, I don't really know how to explain it. It's like, I found it humorous when I was younger because, you know, when people joan on you, like it can be funny, especially if you're not really trying to hurt feelings. You're having like fun. It was funny back then, but like now as an adult, I'm like, dang, like there's so much to unpack there. You know what I mean? Like,
so for Black people, do you think that it's because you do present white and there's just that how do I want to say it? Okay, like I mean, for me personally, I mean, sometimes I just look at white people and I just shake my head like, how can you be so mean? How can you be, be so ignorant,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So do
Mm-hmm.
you think that when Black people do that to you because you are presenting white, that they just can't see past your skin? Even if your mother was standing right next to you and said, "This is my daughter. I birthed her," whatever, they would just kind of block your mother out, and all Black people are seeing is your skin. They're seeing this white person.
Yeah, that has happened, and it got to the point where, not just Caucasian people asking, like, are you okay? Like, were you taken? But like people from the Black community just being like, I can't believe they let a Black lady adopt a white baby. And it's like, I'm not adopted. And I remember that neighborhood that we'd moved into, we lived there for like years. And uh, right below us, our neighbor, she was Asian American. And I remember my car had broken down, and she was kind enough to give me a ride up to the mall to go to work. And she, first thing out of her mouth was just, "So when did you find out you were adopted?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm not, I'm not adopted." And she goes, "Oh, she hasn't told you yet." Okay. And I'm like, "No, I'm really not adopted." And she just gave me this, "Okay, okay." Like, why, why would I make that up? Like, you put me and my mom next to each other, you can tell. Like on TikTok, I have had to sit there and defend my lineage. And I have put up pictures of like me and my cousins and my uncle and my aunt, all of that. And like, there are people in the comments that are like, "Dude, look, they have the same smile. Like, look at their eyes, look at their mannerisms, look at, like, you can tell she's related to them." And someone, of course, there's always someone in the comments who was like, "Okay, is it that you can tell she's related, or are you just attributing that? Do you want it to be true? So you're looking for ways to prove it." And it's like, okay, so I broke out my family history book, like literally have it on my mantle over there. When we went down, I was in high school. We went down to North Carolina. We went to our family reunion. It was a centennial event. It was the like 100 years worth of like reunions that had been happening. And seeing all the amazing people in my family that was very inspiring. But then seeing when we all went out on almost like a tour, we went to where one of my ancestors lived as a slave, and his family, where they had, it was either 14 or 17 kids, but in a shack, in
Mhm.
a shack. And seeing that, and then seeing like their graves, and
Mhm.
just where I came from, and knowing some of my ancestors, when they came over, they were in, I want to say it was Alabama first, and then like some of them escaped and like made their way up to North Carolina. When they got essentially almost like recaptured, they weren't branded, if memory serves. They weren't branded, so they were just taken in as new property.
Mhm.
And seeing where they were and how they lived and stuff, that is so, it hits you in a whole different way. It is humbling seeing, I mean, 14 kids. I have two teenagers and a toddler. 14 kids, I beg your pardon. And then during those times, I beg your pardon. Like, oh my God. And then even still, now I will say this, there was one young lady on TikTok who was like, "I'm sorry, you're half what? Are you sure? Like, have you double checked?" And she was one of the ones I had challenged back with all this info. Now she did step back and she straight up said, "I can honestly say I am truly sorry. I didn't
Well,
profile."
what's interesting about that is because I'm pretty sure that you have in the same thing, white, Black, um, and you may have someone who comes out really dark standing next to their white mother.
Mm-hmm.
So are white people saying the same thing? "Oh, come on, you aren't, you can't be, so do you think that people just don't want to accept it, or that people are just ignorant? And I don't mean stupid. I mean ignorant in the ways that our genes, you don't, I mean, when you're born, you don't know. They may reach back to to 1602. They may reach back to 1412. I mean, I don't know. So
Mm-hmm.
do you think that people just don't know, or they just don't want to see it? They just don't want to accept that this is what it is, you know?
I actually think it's a mix of both. You have people that really are uneducated in terms and regards of genetics and biology. You know, and with the American education system, I could go on a whole rant about that, but there are some very serious fundamentals scientifically and just logically that we are lacking. Like a Punnett square isn't the end all be all final result, as we both know. It is not that, you know. There you could have like two Black parents, and then, you know, the daughter comes out light skinned, you know, and it's not because anyone did something wrong. It's not because of any nefarious reasons. That's just genetically what happened.
Right, right.
Then you have those people that just they will not hear of it. You know, they absolutely will not hear of it. I think I told you on the other show, when I was a kid, during soccer, and I had brought up to this one gentleman, how I was biracial. And he said that I deserved a pretty rope necklace with a tree as an accessory to go along with it. People like that are both ignorant and refuse to see it. But that was a huge dose of they just don't want, they can't accept it. And anything that goes against what they believe is just an abomination.
But what's interesting is if we look back, if all of us look back at our family trees, we all gonna trip over each other. We all have, I mean, we all have something or somebody somewhere went to the hay shack and they were fooling around, you know. So I mean, because I always went, because when people do that, I'm always surprised. I always want to tell them, you would probably be surprised if you look back at your family tree to see who great 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 granddaddy was, or who great uncle so and so was, or great aunt. You know, you would be surprised.
Mm-hmm. Very surprised.
So on the education level, because we see a lot of stuff coming out of Florida and Texas, and it's starting to be a virus that's spreading all over the country in terms of banning books. How do you think the interracial and biracial should be handled in schools? Because you have some people who don't want to talk about it, but you have classmates, you have students who are sitting in your classroom and they're biracial. So,
guns blazing into this topic, it needs to be discussed. There are those that don't want to talk about it. Okay, fine. Then why don't we do what we used to do when I was a kid, and the whole sex education thing was going to come up and we needed to discuss it. Like, you can sign your kid out of it. And yeah, there are going to be a few that sign out. Okay, fine. But there are going to be those that are like, you know what? They can teach it better than I can.
yeah.
They can explain it better than I can. I would rather the school handle this than me. And if they have questions, they can go to their teacher. If they come home and bring me something, I'll do the best I can. But if I need to, I know I can refer them to the teacher. And hands down, that is what needs to happen. We're giving way too much leeway to ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
We're too much leeway to this fear propaganda and this fear mongering. People of color are here. They've been here. They've always been here. We, like, people of color, you're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're here. Biracial people, we are here. So long as people exist, there are going to be people of multiple ethnicities. We are here. We're not going anywhere. And people that are LGBTQIA plus, they've always been here. They're going to continue to be here. They're not going anywhere. And the best thing you can do is educate yourself and try to help educate others, like the younger generations, because those who ignore history are absolutely doomed to repeat it.
They are.
And the one quote that I resonate with, and I need to look up and see who said it, but it says, evil in its purest form is born from innocence. Because you did not know something, then you got introduced to it, and then it became sadistic.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like that's where like color fetishizing comes in. is that you have people that are told like, oh no, this race is like, the bad race, they're stay away from them, they're impure, they're this or that. And then it becomes a forbidden fruit. And then you start to lust for it, you fetish after it, you want it. And then what happens? Girl meets guy, girl gets in bed with guy, girl is pregnant. Okay, but now you have a girl who's going to be pregnant with a biracial baby, raising said baby in a very racist and hostile environment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't understand how that is going to impact the child, like you don't need to be the parent, and it's so infuriating because there are so many situations like what I just listed that happen. And it's now with everything happening in the aforementioned states, it's getting worse.
So your children, do they ever have issues, or have they ever faced any racism because of the family and grandma and,
So in elementary school, my oldest boy, Damien, my husband, he was picking him up from elementary school. And I remember my husband telling me this story as clear as day. And Damien came running up to him. He was probably in like first or second grade. And he was crying. Like as soon as he saw Dad, it just started coming out. So immediately my husband's like, what happened? What's the matter? Like, mijo, like, ¿qué pasó? What happened? And he's like, insert boy's name here, doesn't want to be my friend. Okay, well, why? Because I'm the wrong color. He says he can't be friends with me because I'm the wrong color. And he had no understanding. Like, I mean, yes, he was that young. I get it. But there was like, I mean, at the same time, there like, he needed to know what racism was and what it means to be in, like, involved equally. What is equality? What does equality look like? And having that experience with D, I made sure to get several children's books for my daughter that touch on these topics. Like I Am Wonderfully Me, My Skin is another one that I really like. And the reason I love My Skin, they actually broke it down by a psychologist who says kids as young as like 18 months can recognize race. They recognize the difference. People say like, that's where stranger danger comes into play, because kids recognize certain characteristics that are not attributed with mom, dad, grandma, brother. They understand that, including skin pigmentation. And the best time to introduce them to the understanding and acknowledgement of race and racism is when they're young, because they're a blank slate, they're a sponge, they will absorb it. And there's an appropriate way to do that. And this book breaks that down and explains it like, hey, like how much pigmentation do you have? Are you more like daddy? Are you more like mommy? Like, it's a very appropriate way to bring it up. And I really wish this book had been a tool when Damien was growing up. And I feel like it would have been a good preemptive lesson for him and a good way to kind of prepare him for the fact that there are kids who are going to be raised by bigots, and there's nothing you can do,
So can I ask how many times you ran home crying when you were younger?
A lot. Believe it or not, because of course, as you know, I am not shy about being biracial. I'm very proud of it. Aside from like the several times that I was like freaked out in elementary school from grown adults saying stuff to me, including my guidance counselor back then. Like my mom and I both came to her with this straight up white bread girl who was a bully to me. And they did not want to hear it. It was because I was biracial, my mom's Black, and here's this white lady guidance counselor telling me she doesn't believe that this person would bully me because this person is so popular. Oh yeah, because that matters when you're in third grade. Okay. But this person's so popular and they're such a great student, and the family is of great standing. Her dad was military, I think Navy, if memory serves. And then her mom was a stay-at-home mom who like volunteered and did stuff with like the soccer team for my city. So I'm like, great standing. Okay. It's not great standing. It's because they were a full white family. I know that now. And the biggest thing that this bully did when I was finally moving, I remember telling all of the classmates, I'm moving to this side of the city. I'm still going to be in the city, but I'll be closer to Springfield Mall. My bully went and told her mother that I was moving to Springfield. Her mom, this is a child, mind you, telling an adult this. Her mom didn't even bother to call my mom to confirm whether or not we were moving and where we were moving to. She just went to the board of Alexandria City Soccer League and told them I was leaving the city and to take me off the roster. So they did. Her last act was the most vicious. They got me booted off of the soccer team. Her and her stupid little minions, mainly her, got me booted off the soccer team. And my mom lost it. She finally wrote a letter to the board and the director and called her out for everything, which made me happy. But let's flip that. Let's look at a different story. 8th grade, I'm 14. We have a substitute teacher. She's light-skinned. I brought up, and this stands out clear in my mind, she wanted to know about us, like tell us something personal so we can connect. Okay, fine. I brought up how I'm biracial, but I'd like to think of myself as being like Mariah Carey because Mariah Carey is also biracial, but she presents as Caucasian. And this woman cut me off and was like, you are no Mariah Carey. And I was like, no, what I mean is that I'm black and white. Like, no, you can just stop right there because you're no Mariah Carey. I'm like, oh, well, okay. And I love to read. And I went home. My mom picked me up and I was so upset. And I told my mom to this day remembers that because she was pissed. She wanted to stomp down to that school and read that woman the riot act. Like, who the hell are you?
Do you
Like,
ever see some of these people?
I don't see my elementary school bullies. I don't see them, which I am actually quite proud of. I'm very happy about that. I did see the guidance counselor, ran into her a couple times, and
As an adult, you ran
as
into her.
as an adult, and I was working at my pharmacy. My mom had actually, she would borrow my car. So she had actually parked and she was in Baskin Robbins and she was getting something and it was like a big rush or whatever. But my guidance counselor happened to be there. And my mom was like, oh, hey, like, it's me. I'm Sarah's mom. And she was like, oh, yes. How is Sarah? What's she doing? And my mom said it was the way she said it. Like she was just waiting for something negative. And my mom was like, oh, well, she's actually like a pharmacy tech, like right here at this CVS. She's been there for years. She's getting her second degree. Like she's getting it in forensic psychology. She's going to George Mason University. Oh, and it's like, okay, but did you hear this is her second degree at George Mason University. And my mom just looked at her with this like full, complete understanding. We knew she was a brat, but this was like full, complete understanding of she wanted me to fail.
Yeah.
She wanted me to fail. And when I bumped into her, my mom and I were at Total Wine, and we bumped into her, and I'll never forget the way she spoke to me and my mom, and then the way she was just hyping herself and her husband up. When we were walking in, she was saying, girl, girl, girl. And like my mom and I were both like, who the hell? And we like turn around and there she is. And she walks up to my mom first and is like, hi, yes, it's me, remember? So, yes, good to see you. Well, I see you're here. Not surprising. It was all these microaggressions, but then she was like, so, where are you working at, young lady? I beg pardon. You just approached us calling my mom girl. Completely ignore me. Make microaggressions about us going to Total Wine. And then you want to know where she's working? Who are you to just demand this stuff? And then she looked at me and was like, oh, hi, Sarah. So how are you? Are you still playing apothecary? Like, oh, I'm sorry. Am I still a licensed and certified, recognized pharmacy technician? Yes, I am. I absolutely.
So people, okay, so growing up, do you think it would have been easier if you were full? I can't. I know this is going to come out bad. You were full fledged black, as in terms of biracial. Do you think that the racism would have been easier? Does that make sense? Like,
No, I know what you mean. Would I like? How would the impact of like the different communities like hit me? Would I have been able to handle the one, since I'm not kind of getting heat from both?
from both, but also this woman, would she have? I mean, the way she treated your mother, was it because that she had a daughter that looked like you, or if you think that whether you were black, she still would have been the same person?
Oh, she absolutely would have been the same person. My bully back at that elementary school had invited everybody to her like fourth grade birthday party, and by this time I had already moved, so I didn't care. But she excluded the one girl who was black. Made sure to invite the light skinned girl, but purposely ignored the black,
the dark skinned girl,
with
yeah.
darker skin. And when she brought it up, because she was hurt, everybody's talking about this party that they went to, and oh, how fun. And she's like, well, I didn't get an invitation. And she's like, my bully was like, yeah, I know. And so she went to try to talk to somebody about it, because the teacher wasn't helping. And so she went to try to talk to the guidance counselor about it. And she was just like, okay, so I mean, why are you upset? Well, because she didn't invite me. I was the only one who didn't get invited. So what you need to do is ask yourself what you did. Maybe you owe her an apology. And she's like, okay, but I haven't done anything to her. Whenever there's a group, she makes sure to stay out of my group. She doesn't come in my group, but I've never done anything to her. Yeah, I still think you need to apologize and maybe just look at who you are. Who says that to a fourth grader? Who completely blatantly ignores the fact that she isolated this kid? I don't understand. I really don't understand. And one second.
So,
my other dog wants in.
sure.
Sorry. Good girl. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I have a gnat flying around here that is driving me crazy. So, okay, so high school.
Mm-hmm.
And reunions. Have you gone to any where you have seen? I mean, because for me, high school reunions are like, yeah, you go and say, hey, what's up? Blah, 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 but I always want to go because there's just this one girl that I just could not stand. And I just want to go to my high school reunion just to tell her that I just didn't like you, whatever. So for you going, have you been back and have you gone back to one and have some of these people who did not treat you well? Did you say something to them, or did they make those little comments still where they still think it's funny, but it's not funny all these years later? I mean,
so out of everybody from high school, I have like a very select group of friends, like, time and distance, kind of do their own thing. But then, I look back on a lot of things and I realize, like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting you from being a friend, because I was that girl who had to have like a lot of friends. I wanted you to know I was your friend and I was here for you, and I the same in return.
mm-hmm.
But as I got older and as I did a lot of healing, I realized, there were people that were friends that were actually very much as like, just acquaintances, associates, Um, and then when we had our 10-year reunion, I had actually been very gung ho to try and go.
Mm-hmm.
And then just somewhere along the line, I kind of stepped back and I was like, okay, but why? Why am I so excited to go? I mean, social media, I see everybody on there. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
I see what you guys are doing from, time to time if I care to look. But I mean, also like going in person, I don't like, I don't understand what that would bring for me. So I actually wound up not going. And I was actually very good. I was very good with that. And seeing people post online that they had fun at the reunion or whatever was like cool, but it also was like, okay, but I didn't need that, that I'm glad,
Okay.
like, I'm glad you guys had fun, truly. Like, and I used to be that girl that wanted to be around people all the time. And I needed to know, that I was that girl. And I was like loved and adored, again, trauma speaking. But once I had gotten to that stage, I'm just like, you know what? I'm glad you guys had fun. I had a great time being here. And part of me wonders, like, not just is it like the past trauma, but was it just that I was just like, I'm good on anything that could possibly become toxic. I don't even want to put myself in a situation where it could potentially go that way, because for too long I did that, and the other part of me is like, I'm older now. I don't like people as much as I used to. I really don't like people like
No, I know. Believe me, I totally get that. I totally get that. So, how emotionally draining was it, and is it growing up biracial and being biracial?
from there's a clip from Family Guy where they're talking about like past lives and stuff like that. And Lois is like, the Mass's daughter, and Peter's ancestor is black, and they have their three kids. And then Stewie looks up at his mom and he was like, the great thing about being black and white, when I grow up, I'll be accepted by everybody. Like, that was my thought process as a kid. I was like, hey, like I'm both. So both people will love and accept me. And it's like, watching that, because I was older and like seeing that, I was just like, oh. And it's like I wanted to talk to like little Sarah and me and be like, oh honey, you got a lot to learn. Don't your expectations are here on humanity, honey. I really need you to lower them to something realistic. Like, I really, really wanted that. It was exhausting, but it was mainly the crap I got from the toxic side of my family that drove me nuts. That was the hard part. That was the real hard part. When
So, can I ask, the toxic side of your family, was it more the black side or more the white side,
it was
or it was a mixture of both?
my maternal grandmother's side, so my mom's mom, it was
Okay.
side of the family. I, on God, if I never deal with them again, it will be absolutely too soon. Absolutely too soon. And
So, do you take your children around both sides of the family? I mean, do they know their cousins and their aunts and what have you?
so during COVID, when nobody could go anywhere, obviously, we had this big Zoom like gathering, so to speak, and I made sure to put the boys on, and for them to like wave, and I'm like pointing out who's who. And when Christmas happened last year, I made sure to let them know, hey, like your great uncle Len got you this stuff, or like whoever did what.
But do they physically go and see them? Do they physically go and interact with them? Do you let them spend the night? Do they do any of that?
We're too far. They
Okay.
can't,
Okay.
unfortunately, just due to location, since my hubby's active duty military. But if we were close enough to my maternal grandmother's side of the family, hell no, they wouldn't be going around them. Absolutely not.
What
No.
what if they wanted to?
I would still, it is my job as their mother to protect them from anything and everything,
Okay.
stuff that they don't understand or they don't know about the way that we as older adults and parents do. And this would be that naivety. This would be that innocence of like, hey, I just want to get to know my family. You know what? I know them. They're not good people, but I can tell you about them. What is it you want to know? Like what to ask me questions like, well, mom, why can't I go around them? Because of how they did me. And if they were willing to do that to me as a child, they'll do it to you and they'll
So,
do it.
so when they become adults and they want to go around these people, um, is will you? They're older, so they're adults. You really can't,
If they're
say much. But do you think that at some point you should, just so they can see for yourself, and you can see, I told you so. Do they need an "I told you so" moment?
if they reach adulthood and they have made the decision that this is what they want to do, they want to go and meet them, they want to learn about them, I will absolutely protest. But I will step back and I will let them know, okay, if you're set on doing this, okay, I will support the fact that you want to learn about yourself. I will support you. I will support that. The person you're going to, I don't like, I don't love, I don't want anything to do with. But if you feel this is what you got to do, okay, I will be here for you when you come back. I will be here. When you go and
Okay.
meet, whatever, and you come back, I'm here. And if you need to decompress, if you need to vent, if it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, I am here. But at that point, when they're an adult, I mean, I can fuss and rant and rave, and I can throw everything under the sun. It's their choice at that point, and I will be forced to step back and respect their decision, not just as like adults, but like as my grown children that have control of their own lives.
So, are you part of a? I don't even know if there is one, but are you part of like a biracial group or something? Or
There is one on Facebook that I'm a part of. And actually, one of my other biracial friends on TikTok had actually shown me what the group was and like to go ahead and join. So I join and I I read stories and I see, different interactions and stuff that happen on there. And that I I can't even lie. That's very cathartic, knowing that I'm not alone in the sense that there's a lot of crap that I went through with just like people and family, and then they've gone through it too. And sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's not as bad, sometimes it's right on my level. But seeing all of that makes me feel so much better and like much less alone, you know?
okay, all right. So, so we're getting towards the 45-minute mark, but I do want to ask this about parties. You're in high school. Did you
Mhm.
go to parties?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let me ask,
I tell my
did you go to the black parties or did you go to the white parties? And how were they both?
So never went to a white party in my life.
Okay, all right,
Never
okay.
went to a single white party. What I did do was I went to I guess what you would call a blended party. I would go to the blended party. So what we bonded over was our taste in music. We were all metalheads. We loved metal. Um,
Okay.
so any of us that were, the Hot Topic rebels, we rocked trip pants. We had all the piercings and the wild hair and stuff like that, and black nail polish, which I still got on today. Like all of that. That is what we bonded over. Like, do you like Mudvayne? Do you like Slipknot? Do you like Metallica? Like all of that. That's what we bonded over. And you had people like my husband who were Latino, and you had him, you had Marco and Edwin, they and Juan, they were all Latino, and then you had people that were black that were in here. You had people like me that were biracial that were in here. We even had Asian people, and it was awesome. Like my one friend Ralph, he's I want to say Filipino and something.
Okay.
But it was this beautiful melting pot of just amazing, typical pissed off teenage souls that rocked out to like some amazing music and just had like really, really awesome experiences. And that first party I went to is where I bumped into my husband. So like, again, we had different age ranges and stuff like that. You had who were 18, and then those 18-year-olds were friends with like people who were just like a year or two older than them. And then like, so you had this big, again, a big melting pot of everyone. Manny, my hubby, was 20, and he genuinely thought I was like 18, 19. So he slid over into my DMs and was like, you know, talking sweet to me and hollering at me and stuff. And later on, like, you know, like obviously time happens, space happens, and then we, you know, we came back together, and then we were talking about those old glory days. And I was like, yeah, I can't believe, like, you know, I went to that party, and then I had to study for my test the next day, like, because, you know, 10th grade English, man. And he was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, yeah, I was 16. And he was like, you were how old? Like, I was like, dude, you know, you're 4 years older than me. And he was, I was like, it wasn't that serious, Azula. Golly. You know, like, but yeah, no, oh my God, the look on his face, I will live.
So were you asked out by equally black guys and white guys?
It was actually more black and Spanish.
Okay.
Than the white. And I honestly want to say, I feel like that has something to do with the fact that, how do I phrase this? Growing up, I did not, oh my God, what? Did I forget to give you your like hemp oil? Okay, that's a look. Come, because you're driving me nuts. I love you. Okay. Here, chew on that. Good girl. Okay, so I didn't, like, growing up, we did not come from money. So I really feel like a lot of the Caucasian people in my life were of money and, like, you know, for lack of a better term, snobby bougie. And what I actually can really appreciate of those that do not come from money is that you don't take stuff for granted, you know. But circling back, so the only, like, I think there were like maybe three, if that, three, possibly four white boys that, like, you know, asked me out and were like into me. Only two that I actually dated, and everybody else was like of color. And
okay,
the one white boy that I did date, he's one of my horrific evil exes. And I know I was talking about him a little bit on the other show. But he wanted so badly to be oppressed, and he was all about that life. And oh, how gangster he was. He had no problem dropping the N-word left, right, and center. And he had no problem telling me I should be grateful that he finds me attractive because I'm white looking, and he loves black looking girls, which pulls the whole fetish thing back into play.
Yeah.
He was very quick. He was a whole malignant narcissist, but he was very quick to remind me of my place. And that,
when you say remind you of your place, what do you mean?
That I'm a biracial female that looks white, and that he has white friends on the police force and black friends on the police force, and no one will give a damn about a half breed.
Wow.
I were to go missing, no one would give about a half breed. As soon as they found out I had black blood in me, but I was also half white, nobody would give a damn. Nobody.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
you dated this guy?
Oh, this was when the facade dropped.
Okay.
Of like toxic relationships. They are the Prince Charming. They are
wow.
so.
That's true. They are. When you do see people, you're right.
Yep. And then slowly, bit by bit with him, it was like a small thing here, you know, the mask came down. Oh, but he pulled it back up. Okay. And then something would happen and it would come down more, but then he would pull it back up, and then the love bombing would be even more intense. And then it came down completely. And he it was like, what, 6 months post spinal surgery for me. I had my L4 and L5 taken out, had to have a spinal fusion. And I was told, like, hey, after your bed rest time, then you're going to start your PT, and then your body still has healing to do. So you're going to be healing on this healing journey for a year plus, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, that's understandable. It was 6 months post surgery, and he put his hands on me. He was mad that, one, I wasn't reacting to what he was saying. And then two, I don't even know what it was that he was so upset about. Like, the mind will black that out. There are so many things that he was pissed off about, or he would get mad at me about, that my brain just blacked out. And he snatched my phone from me. And we were right down this, like, literally around the corner from his house. So I was just like, okay, cool, fine. Take the damn phone. I will go and knock on his door and ask his mom, because he lived at home with moms. I will ask his mom to use the phone, and I'm going to have my mom come and get me. So I got out of the car and I start walking. He gets out of his car saying, I've got him effed up, and like, where do you think you're going, little girl? And then he grabbed me and he shook me, and I snapped my head back, and I could feel everything, like, from the C-spine all the way down. Yeah, I could feel everything snap. And his neighbor, who knew who he was, screamed at him, get your effing hands off her. And he turns around and he was like, hey, we're okay here, Jim. And he was like, no, you're not okay. Don't touch her. And he was like, the facade dropped, and he was like, how about you mind your business, Jim? How about that? You don't want to get involved, trust me. And he was like, I want to get involved because you had your hands all over her. I was to blame for that. That whole interaction, I was to blame.
That's what usually happens. That's
what happens. And when the one time I had called, one of many times, I'd called the police on him. He had been throwing rocks at my window, and the officers that responded, the one, she was an Amazon woman. Oh my God, I love her to death. Officer Katz, I will never forget her. She made sure to collar him and throw him in the back seat. And she was gathering the stories, as were other officers. And I told her he had been trying to get my attention and trying to force me to come out by throwing rocks at my window. And so she was like, okay. So she goes down and she speaks with him. He confirms the story. She goes to her car, opens up her book, scans, like literally by the book. She actually went by the book, found what she needed, closed it, stood up, had him like out of the car, and had him, like, she read him his Miranda rights. And I was like, what? Like, because of course, victim mentality. I'm like, oh my God, no, you can't do that. It was a level 6 felony, throwing missiles at an inhabited dwelling. Because if that window had shattered, all the glass could have come in and hurt. He got let go. He called one of his cop buddies. And here's what makes me mad. And that whole squad that came, they were all white. Nothing against them, just for info. They were all white. We had one female, the rest were gentlemen. He called his black cop friend to come help po white boy get out the situation. And because his black officer friend was higher up than those that had responded, he had authority, and he let him go. And when I had slapped an emergency restraining order on him, the white cop he was friends with, because he had worked at a gym and he became friends with this cop, the white cop saw the restraining order at the courthouse, saw it going through, recognized his name, took it to him to check on him and see how he was doing. What? Not the fact that there was a victim out there. Oh, no. It is the fact that that was your buddy, and poor white buddy needs to see how white boy's doing. Wow. And I know I brought this up on the previous show, but like, all the charges he has where he should have been in jail, fines, time served. It's okay. Oh, we're going to drop the case. I swear I went over his record with a fine-tooth comb. I reached out to one of my friends who's a paralegal, and I was like, dude, what does this mean? What I think it means? Does this mean that like the case was dropped? And she was like, yeah, it's translated directly to this, and it means that prosecution has said we're not going to go forward with that. That was with a grand larceny case. And that was also with him being busted with possession of marijuana and paraphernalia. How do you drop the case? How?
Because this is America and this is what our justice system does. That's
Damn.
what that is. So, do you have any closing words or anything that you want to say to other biracial children out there? And even biracial adults who may still be going through something?
You are perfectly you. There is no one else out there like you. You are unique and you have a beautiful blend of cultures. And I want you to explore all sides of your culture. What makes you? Are you Scottish? Are you German? Are you French? Are you South African? Are you Nigerian? Look at everything about you and embrace it, because that is what makes you you. And at the end of the day, if anyone gives you grief, remind them, in a tragic event, if you're getting a blood transfusion, you have no idea where that blood comes from, because we
This
all
is
bleed
true.
red. We all bleed red. It doesn't say biracial blood, black blood, white blood. It says A type positive, O type negative.
Mhm.
Because blood is a life force and it doesn't matter who it comes from, it will sustain your life. We all bleed the same color. You are loved. You are special. Never forget that.
And that was that, ladies and gentlemen, Lady Artemis. And she can be found on TikTok, Lady Artemis 89. Thank you for giving up your Saturday to do this.
Thank you for having me. I am honored.
You're welcome. So until next time, everyone, peace.